today we are going to understand the topic of synchronous machines. Before we know what are the synchronous machines, let us understand why we have to study these synchronous machines. All of us need electricity, and the nature of electricity is generally in the form of AC, and the bulk of the power generated is in a three-phase mode. That means we need to produce voltages at AC but with three-phase. The machines which produce such a voltage, which will then be transferred for the use of the consumers, is called a synchronous machine. Crudely, in earlier courses, you may know that whenever you spin a magnet inside a stationary frame carrying a coil, a voltage induced in that stationary coil. And the nature of voltage induced would be AC because your magnet is rotating, linking positive and negative fluxes with the coil due to the alternating poles. And if you, instead of one coil in the stator, if you place three coils at a displacement of 120 electrical degrees, then we obtain three-phase voltages, because in each of these phases the induced voltages would be time-phased difference with reference to other two voltages by 120 degrees. This is broadly the system we will now be trying to understand in detail. So this synchronous machine is an important machine, and let us, before we go into details, let us understand some of their specific features and how they are put to practical use in the society. So this synchronous machine, we notice that more than 80% of electrical power generated in the world is through these synchronous machines. So that's why they are important. Now, the other feature is that these machines are driven by prime movers using different energy resources. After all, the whole purpose of power generation is to convert the naturally available energy sources into usable electrical energy, and these synchronous machines are the devices which facilitate such a conversion of energy from one form to another. Basically, the primary naturally available energy sources are fed into a prime mover to produce some motion, and that motion is transferred to the synchronous generator, which will convert that motion or mechanical energy into electrical energy. Okay, and the ones which drive them are called the prime movers. Now, what are the typical energy resources? We get in nature the coal, nuclear fuel, we also have natural gas, we have the hydro potential, and we have the petroleum oil. So all of these are naturally available energy resources which will then be used to drive some prime movers. Now, what are those prime movers? These prime movers, if it is from coal or nuclear, these are called the steam turbines, and if it uses gas, it is the gas turbine, and if it uses the hydro potential, it is called a hydro turbine. And if they use the petroleum oil, then we call this as IC engines or internal combustion engines. So these are the very popular type of prime movers which are used to drive the synchronous machines to work as generators. Okay. Next point, we are saying that they are called synchronous. There must be some reason for calling them as synchronous. They are called synchronous because they are always run at a fixed speed. They are run at a fixed speed called synchronous speed. Now you may say, why are we keen on that so-called synchronous speed? You may know one of the purposes of the power generation is that you must produce power at a fixed voltage and fixed frequency. In order to have a fixed frequency, the generator has to run at a fixed speed because the generated frequency is proportional to speed. And of course, it will also depend upon the number of poles. Smaller the number of poles, you will have higher frequency. Or for the same frequency, the synchronous speed will get reduced with larger number of poles and gets increased with smaller number of poles. Okay. With this basic information, let us go on further. The other features, that the synchronous machines, they are predominantly used as generators, and their use as motor is limited. So almost more than 80% of synchronous machines are used as generators, and as motors they are used for constant speed drives, or for what is known as VAR controllers, where VAR means reactive power can be controlled by the synchronous motors by controlling their field. Of course, we will understand more in a little later about these features. Okay. Now, the important thing is that the synchronous generators are available. While bulk of them are in three-phase, they produce three-phase voltages. There are also the ones which use single phase, means that they generate voltage on a single phase mode. So we have both three-phase and single-phase synchronous generators are in use. Okay. Now, the three-phase generators, which are bulk generators, their range may be, a smallest three-phase generator may be around 10 kilowatt, going even up to a single unit of 1000 megawatts. So you can understand the range of power handled by these synchronous generators, smallest with 10 kilowatt and the largest with around 1000 megawatts. So obviously the size also will considerably vary as the power ranges increase. Now, whereas in the case of single phase generators, they are all of low power. They don't go into high power because they are used usually for standby generators, domestic and commercial applications. And they may be varying from a few hundred watts to about 10 kilowatt. We generally do not have single phase generators beyond around 10 kilowatt. So we are now looking at two different classifications of machines, a three phase with a higher range of power and a single phase with a lower range of power. We know that if you put three windings, then you get three phase power. If you just put only one winding, you can have only single phase power. And the next point, let us see, normally three phase generators, they are driven by oil engines, gas turbines, steam turbines, hydro turbines, Okay, these are the ones which are normally driven. The normal three-phase generators will then be having these type of turbines in use. So that means you can have oil engine driven three-phase generators, which are basically diesel engines and so on. You have gas turbine driven synchronous generators for gas turbine based power stations. You have steam turbine driven generators for basically thermal power stations driven by excited by coal or nuclear. Hydro turbines, that means large hydro electric stations, they use three-phase generators. Another important thing is all these three-phase generators are fed to the grid. They feed power to a interconnected electricity grid. So there are, that means in the power system, large number of generators located in several places at different distances may feed to a common grid. Further, in each power station itself, there will be several generators all feeding to the same grid. Okay. So this is an important factor. So whereas in the case of single phase generators, these are driven mostly either by oil engines or by small hydro turbines. They are generally the case. Okay. And oil engines could be petrol engines, diesel engine, kerosene engines or biogas engines. And these engines drive these single phase generators. In fact, most of the portable gensets that we use in domestic and commercial applications, they are all single phase generators. Because normally you don't need three phase power in a house, so use single phase power. And obviously they are isolated, not connected to the grid, and that means they operate on a standalone mode. So these are the differences we must understand at this juncture in asynchronous machines. That means they are mostly used as generators driven by prime movers, which are basically using the primary energy sources, and you have three phase and single phase, three phase for large power, single phase for small power, and single phase is typically driven by oil engines and small hydro turbines, whereas the three phase ones are driven by steam turbines, hydro turbines, etc. So with this broad scenario, let us now look at the construction of these machines. How are they made up of? Okay. So we have a synchronous machine stator, that is a stationary member. It has three phase distributed windings. These windings are housed in slots formed in a laminated core. So that is the basic magnetic structure of a stator, with windings placed in slots, and they are in turn placed in a laminated core. It means a magnetic core which is made up of stampings. And another thing is they carry three phase currents at three phase voltages. So that is the feature of the stator. That means you have a terminal box through which either you can apply a voltage or you can take out the voltage, and the currents through these three phase windings would be the three phase currents. So that is as so far as the stator construction of a synchronous machine are concerned. And the rotor, on the other hand, has field windings, because the very purpose of the rotor is to produce the magnetic field. That's why they are called field winding. Though these are electromagnets, means that they have windings carrying DC. So you have to inject direct current into them so that they get magnetized and polarized to the desired polarity. And these windings are wound on a core to form multiple poles. So that means you have a several pole windings in the rotor which are running at a fixed speed. And let us understand how many types of rotors are there. In broad terms, there are two types of rotors. One is called a salient pole rotor, which has protruded poles. We will see them in the pictures a little later, and they operate at low speed, and to get the same frequency, any low speed prime movers or machines would necessarily have to have large number of poles, and these are normally driven by hydro turbines. Of course, some oil engines also may be there, because the hydro turbines are generally low speed turbines requiring higher number of poles. So it's a high speed hydro turbines. And you have, of course, and these generally have laminated cores. They are not solid cores, even in the field winding, and they have large diameter. The diameter of the rotor is large, but its length is small. So these are the feature of the so-called salient pole machine. Whereas in the other type, it is called a cylindrical rotor machine. In a cylindrical rotor machine, it is generally of a high speed, which means it has low poles. That means whenever your prime mover is running at a very high speed, you can use low poles for the same frequency, and they are normally used in thermal power plants. Whereas salient poles are in hydropower plants, these are in thermal power plants or nuclear power plants, because the steam turbines used in thermal power plants are generally a high speed, say 1500 or 3000 RPM, so that by using 2 or 4 poles, you can generate the 50 cycles frequency from these power plants. And these cylindrical rotors are non-laminated solid cores. They are not laminated cores, they are solid cores, and they generally have a small diameter and a large length. So there is a contrast between salient pole and cylindrical rotor machines. Okay. So these are now the basic construction of stator and rotor. Now if you want to look at in picture how it looks like, this is typically a stator structure. That means there are 3 windings. It is A, B and C with its magnetic axis A axis, B axis and C axis. So these 3-phase windings are placed in slots, and this is the core. So this is the basic stator of a synchronous machine. And the type of rotors are as follows. This is the salient pole rotor, means it is protruded poles winding here. So it's wound like this. So whenever you pass a current appropriately, it will produce a magnetic field axis like this. So you notice there is only lumped coils placed on the poles. Whereas on the other hand, this is the cylindrical rotor. Again, while the field windings are there, but they are different types. So this looks more cylindrical. So in large number of slots, you put the windings. So the windings will go like this. The positive currents on this side are the currents going in here and coming out like this. So that the magnetic field will be such that this produces a north pole and a south pole. So here also there will be the currents going in like this, and so current will go into this and current will come out. Whereas here also in all these windings current would go in and current would come out. So you have a set of windings. So produces, this will produce the north pole here and south pole here, and this will also produce a north pole here and a south pole here. So magnetic flux will be going like this. Okay. So we have, this is this type of configuration of two types of salient pole and cylindrical rotor. And often we should know how these are all rotating. The machines are rotating and you have to feed current into them. Now in general, in most of the synchronous machines, you feed the current through a slip ring and brush arrangement. Okay. So this is the arrangement of feeding current to rotor. Feeding rotor current. That means from external sources you can pass a current through this terminal X through this brush, and these are the two slip rings, and the current would then pass through the slip rings through the point S1, through this S1 slip ring, and it will go into the windings and come out of the winding like this, and then it will come out through the other slip rings S2. So you can pass a current with a positive and negative like this. So it will, this is how we have a method to inject DC current into the field windings or the rotor windings through a brush and slip ring arrangement. So these necessarily will have to have brushes, and these are the slip rings, and this is the shaft, and this is the core, and these are the windings. Okay. Now let us also look at the other part. So far we have looked at electromagnetic portion of stator and rotor, but since these are rotating, there are also non-electrical parts, which are, I call it as the other parts. Which are the other parts? The other parts are that the whole stator has to be put in a frame or an enclosure. That is important. You can't just place the bare stator with its core, so it must be enclosed. Then the rotor must be mounted on a shaft and a bearing. So mechanical accessory to the stator would be the frame and enclosure, and the shaft and bearings would be for the rotor. And we also need a cooling system, because whenever high currents are passing through, there will be losses and there will be heating. For example, if you have a 1000 megawatt generator, even if it is 99% efficient, that means there will be 1% losses. Even a 1% of 1000 megawatt would be 10 megawatt. So that means a 10 megawatt of heat has to be dissipated and or taken out of the generator. So we need an effective cooling system. For cooling, they use air, then they use water and also hydrogen. So in fact, both the windings have to be cooled, the core has to be cooled, stator and rotor, everything has to be properly cooled. So this will be the other parts. Of course, we have to also consider the terminal box. That is also important. From the windings to the external network, we must have a suitable terminal box and suitably insulated so that it doesn't give rise to any type of sparking or high voltage stresses. Okay, so these are some preliminary informations that we can have. Now, the last point before we look at the actual pictures of these machines are the so-called excitation system. That is how you are going to have the field current produced to feed it to the field winding. That means the field current is fed through two possible ways. One we have already discussed, through the slip rings with brushes. That means whenever you have slip rings, you need the brushes. Generally, the DC is produced either through a DC generator which are mounted on the same shaft, or a stationary external controlled rectifier. That means you can have an AC and you have a rectifier which convert the AC to DC, and then from that DC you take it to the slip ring terminals. Okay. So as we have seen earlier, in this arrangement, these 2 points, it must come out from a DC source from somewhere to feed the DC current. Okay. That is done through the DC generator or a controlled rectifier. And we know that the voltage induced in these generators are proportional to the flux or the field current. So if you want to control the voltage, you must control the flux or control the field currents. That means the voltage across the field winding must be variable. So through DC generator it is varied by controlling the field current of the DC generator. In control rectifier it is varied by controlling the so-called firing angle of the rectifier circuits, from which the output DC can be varied from 0 to full value. Okay, there is presently another important type of synchronous generators are produced in large numbers, but typically in smaller power ratings, and these are called the brushless synchronous generators. They do not have brushes. So you may ask, how is it that how do you feed a current to the rotor, a DC current to the rotor without the brushes? And these are done through a so-called rotating rectifiers. Okay. Now these rotating rectifiers are diodes from which the input side AC and output side DC, and the input to this AC is given by a so-called AC exciter. Okay. So this is a new and presently used types, so-called brushless generators. That means if you have the rotating diodes, I will show it like this, and they will be feeding directly to the field windings. So to the field winding, they are directly, this is the field, and this is the main generator, and they are all on the same shaft. Now the rotating diodes, that means in the AC side you have the 3 phases. This is AC, this is DC. Now how do you get 3-phase voltages? 3-phase voltages are induced again through 3-phase windings here. Now these 3-phase windings are in the rotor of another device called an AC exciter. So this is an AC exciter. This is rotating diode, and this is the synchronous machine. So you will notice that here you are feeding DC. There are windings here in the stator. By controlling the DC current here, you can control the voltage here, because this is all run at the same shaft, but they may have normally large poles. This did not produce 50 cycles. It may be even higher frequencies. Then you have the diodes, and then you get the DC, and this DC current here can be controlled by controlling this DC current. It is as if this small DC current is magnified or amplified into a large DC current, and this is the present trend in medium range synchronous machines. Okay. So these are the different methods of excitation or producing the field current in the rotor to get the desired voltage. Okay, now let us look at some of the pictures. Have a visual demonstration of these machines. This is one of the pictures taken in a factory. You will notice that this one is the stator core which is fabricated in this large system. So you can see the typical size of the stator of a synchronous machine. Okay. This is stator core, and which is under making. Now after the stator core, the core is made, you have the winding. So you will notice that in the stator core there are a large number of slots, and here is the person who is inserting the windings or helping in the fabrication, making of the windings. Okay. So this is sort of a stator structure. These are the sort of types of windings used. It means you initially make sort of a diamond shaped windings which you place it in the slots, and then you make a group of windings and then take out, and they are connected to external circuits. So this is the type of winding. Here is the rotor of a synchronous machine. You see these are all the salient poles, rotors under fabrication mounted on a shaft. So this is one picture of a rotor of a synchronous machine. Okay, we will go through further a little more detail of a combination. You find here the stator, the wounding stator core, the stator frame, and then these are the salient pole. This is a 4-pole structure. Of course, these are the supports. And of course, these are all used for cooling purposes. And you see the slip rings here. These slip rings are used to feed the windings here. Okay. Well, this is again the inside of a stator of a synchronous machine, and these are the partially wound machines. You can see how they are looking. Okay. This is the total parts. You will notice that here is the shaft. Okay. Here is the slip ring assembly. Here is the rotor shaft. These are the brush holders for these slip rings. Of course, these are the DC exciter, that is the DC generator which will go to feed the current. These are the field windings, and of course these are the fans for cooling, etc. And this is the stator. So if you combine them together, it forms your synchronous machine. So this is another picture of the rotor of a synchronous machine. These poles you can see here. Okay, and this of course is the totally assembled parts in which you cannot see what is the inside part. And here is the control panel which can also be rectifiers, etc. for the field winding. Here is a single phase generating set around 2.5 kVA with a petrol engine. So this is a small generator. You can see how it looks out like this. And this one is a diesel generator. This is the diesel engine driving a generator. Okay. And here is again a rotor of a 12-pole diesel driven generator. There are 12 poles here, and you can again the same type of arrangement. And here, this is interesting, here you have a large 100 MVA, 16.5 kV, 150 RPM water wheel generator for a power station. It's a hydro generator. You will see the large diameter. This the stator is under construction. I mean, you don't make it in the factory, but actually you take the parts into the field and you start making them. You will see these are all the stator stampings being put with the slots, etc. Okay. Again, here is a hydroelectric station, a 10 MVA, 6.3 kV, 68 RPM generator, and that is being put it into the field, okay, during mounting of the rotor. So this is the rotor which is getting mounted. Here is another 27 MVA, 11 kV, 150 RPM, again a hydro generator after it is installed into the field in the Hirakud power station. Because here is a total view of a power station with all the prime mover and the generator, with all the accessories parts. Here is a turbo generator or in a thermal power plant which use hydrogen cooling. It is about 62.5 megawatts, run at 3000 RPM. This is the scenario. And this is a air cooled generator, but it is during test bed, it is under testing here. Now we will also go a little further and see some other parts of the machines. See, here is the basic frame of a stator, a fabricated stator structure, and to follow it up with a complete stator assembly. You will see that they are assembling, even the stampings are being placed one after the other in the process of stator core assembly. So after stator core assembly is made, we see here the windings, and here is a method, here is the winding, and here is the method of connecting the end windings. Okay. And here again are similar parts. This is a cylindrical rotor. You will see that it is not salient pole, but they are cylindrical with several slots in these parts. This is an AC exciter, finished rotor. This is an AC exciter, and this is a completed rotor. And here is an unwound rotor, salient pole, and this again is a wound rotor. So you have these parts here. Again, it is a rotor assembly. You will see interestingly this is a cylindrical rotor machine with the windings. So all of these windings are placed like this. You initially have smaller coil spans, different coil spans, and ultimately they are connected like this. And a better view is these are all the windings, rotor winding construction. These are all the windings of the cylindrical rotor synchronous machine. Okay. So this is after the rotor is made, it is put for testing for overspeed chamber to make sure that at very high speeds the mechanical structure is stable and there are no flying off of the windings, etc. Okay. Here is again a field winding under construction, the salient pole, and this is a 4-pole rotor in a overspeed chamber. Again it's undergoing test. While earlier we saw a cylindrical rotor, here is a salient pole, it is going for overspeed testing here. And here you have the bearings which are used for the high speed, and these are also the high speed pedestal bearing with bush and shaft steel. So these are the mechanical parts which we are seeing here. Okay. Now we come to the cooling system. So here is detail of a rotor ventilation and the cooling systems. A typical turbo generators, how the cooling system is being given. Here is air inlet, air outlet, and a screen protected machine with open circuit ventilation. That is the air cooled machines. And we here see a water cooled machines with water coolers cooling air path. And here is again a water cooled machine picture, filtered ventilation with filters mounted on the shaft. Now we come here to a rotating diode, a rotating rectifier assembly of a brushless alternator, which again is shown here. With of course this is the complete circuit diagram of the brushless alternator. Okay. Now we can look at a complete cutaway view of a large turbo generators, the rotor, the stator, and then all the excitations parts, the shaft, and so on. So this gives you a picture of how it looks inside. This is again a cutaway of a large generator. So here it is a salient pole windings, the stator core, stator windings, and of course you have all the excitation systems on the same shaft. Again this is cutaway, another view of a large generator. This is the rotor for a brushless generator with AC exciter rotating rectifier. So you will see typically this is the AC exciter and there are rotating rectifier assemblies here, and which will feed DC to the field windings of a salient pole machine. Okay. Now when you say the AC exciter, it looks like this. So you have the DC fed to the stator of the exciter field, okay, and this is the exciter brush gear. So this is the 2.5 megawatts 11 kV 14 pole brushless alternator with AC exciter, diodes and so on. So this is the complete picture of a brushless generator which is around 2.5 megawatt. Again, this is rotor of a brushless generator, alternator, and this is the AC exciter armature for a brushless generator. It is another version of the same. So you will notice that there are three-phase windings here, and which stator you have the poles. And this is the stator for a 4000 kilowatt 6600 volts alternator. And this is the rotor of a 1250 kilowatt 1500 RPM alternator. So this field winding again is fed through a slip rings, the same shaft. So again another view of rotor with the poles and the windings and so on. Now here you can see a nice view of the rotating diodes assembly and the AC exciter. So AC is here, it goes into the DC to the field winding. So this is another complete cutaway view of a synchronous machine. This is the exciter on the same main shaft. That means this is a DC generator, and the output of this will go into the slip rings of the generator to the field winding. You see these are salient poles which are the field windings, and these are the three-phase windings in the stator. So you can have a nice view of cutoff. That means half of it is shown with all the details in this picture. Okay, so we now come to the end of this presentation, wherein today we have only reviewed certain basic concepts and certain engineering aspects. Namely, the synchronous generators are the one which produce large amount of electrical power in the world. More than 80% of them are those synchronous generators, and they have three-phase windings in stator and field winding in the rotor, except in single-phase generators. And there are different methods of excitation to the rotor, and you may understand that the construction of synchronous generator is quite complicated, which includes the electrical parts, the windings, the core, and the mechanical parts, the shaft, the frames, and the cooling systems. In addition, there is the excitation system in which you want to feed DC to the rotor, and there are two methods, either through slip ring or through rotating diodes. If you use slip rings, you use a DC generator or a control rectifier. If you use the brushless arrangement, if it is slip rings, you use the DC generator, and if it is with brushless arrangement, then you will be using rotating diodes and AC exciter. And with this total construction we have understood, in the next lecture we will go into little more details of how these machines operate, what are their basic principle of operation, and their basic characteristics. So with this I close this first lecture.